Welcome to an easy mill demonstration machining a solid model. So I guess the first thing we'd want to do is position our coordinate system onto the part. So I'm going to go to automation and I'm going to pick world on model. So we're going to machine the top of the part, and you can pick your location, and we'll use the center. Right to stock settings. This is for simulation when you're done with your toolpath and you want to verify what you're going to get at the machine. This is extra material in the x-axis and the y-axis. And then create stock curve. It gives me the boundaries so I know what I can face. So we'll create the stock curve, and the stock curve is in red. Do a top view. Now I'm going to rotate the part so it's lengthwise. So I'm going to go to Edit, Rotate Z. Now I have these buttons because I've added them. You can go to View, Customize, and add your own buttons to your toolbars. So I'm going to rotate Z 90 degrees. Make sure X, Y, and Z are 0. And select your part in the curve. Our next step is to let's look at the model a little more in depth. You have a 3D cutout. I suppose we're going to do a 2D cut on that instead of a 3D. You could also have used Mill Pro to cut the radius in the corner as well. So let's start by creating our boundary curves for this part. I'm going to use the bottom of the part, and I'm just going to go to Curves from Face Curve. And because I selected the bottom of the part, it's going to know the depth. I don't have to know the depth, although if I put my cursor here and left click, it's telling me that it's a depth of negative 1.29. So actually I'm going to copy that value. I don't need the curve at the bottom on the outside perimeter. I want a face, so I'm going to stick that up at the top. So I'm going to go to Edit, Translate. I'm just going to paste the Z, paste. Get rid of the negative. We're going to move it up in a positive direction. Hit Enter. And when I click, I could be grabbing geometry, I could be grabbing the surface, or I could be grabbing the curve. So I'm going to discriminate and say pick only curves. Enter. Now I could have made a copy of that curve, of course. There's copy mode. So now we'll machine. We'll face the stock up to the part boundary. So when I do that, let's just go to Automation, Face. We'll use a half-inch tool. You have your feeds and speed. You can calculate that under Advanced. We're going to use what we have here. I'm just going to paste. Let's go deeper. 3.5. We'll leave a finish allowance of 20 thousandths. Hit OK. Now, what curves are we machining? So we look at our status area down here at the bottom. On the right hand side you'll see path, and it's saying curve 2. Well, which is curve 2? So if I click on the path, I want to start with my stock. So I click on it, stock CRV. Then we need to add the curve that represents the part boundary. If I don't, if I go to machining and verify, let's go back in the work step. I don't want to take a full inch of material, so we're going to step it in Z, maybe a ½ inch. So now I'm taking a few passes to get to depth. So let's include our part boundary. So we're going to go to Add Machining Curves, verify again. If I do a 3D preview, the stock is incorrect. That's because when I calculated my stock. I created the stock curve vertically. So what I'm going to do is go back into stock setup. I'm going to hit the auto setup button. Now when I preview, it looks a little better. Okay, we're going to redraw, and now we're going to machine around the boss to the lower level. So that'll be a facing operation as well. So we're going to go to curves, face curve, select our bottom face, enter, and we're going to machine the part boundary up to the boss. So just like we did with the stock curve and machined up to the part boundary, now we want to machine around the part itself up to the boss. So we're going to make that the active curve. Let's go curve, select. So when I make an active curve, then when I go to automation, it knows it's using that active curve. It's the last thing we did. So, and we'll just call this face lower. Use a depth of 0. The curve is at the depth. Hit OK. Then we're going to add our boss. But before, well, let's take a look. So if we go to machining, you can see we're just facing over the boss. So how do I get it to recognize the boss? I'm going to move my curve up to the surface. So I'm going to go to Edit, Move, Snap to All, and I'm going to pick that base of the radius, click once. That click was recorded over here in X, Y, and Z. I don't want to move X and Y. I don't want to move anywhere in X and Y. I just want to move Z to 0. Hit Enter. Then I'm going to use my discrimination and pick only curves, so I make sure that I'm not picking geometry or surfaces when I click, and Enter. So now we're going to include that in the machining and verify. Take a 3D preview. Now I'll machine these pockets. We'll do the boss pocket separate because the boss is going to start at the top of the part. These holes are going to be started at a lower level. So let's go to automation, pockets. Depth is 0. Finish allowance. Our path, we're going to start with this one. Then we're going to include that one. Now if you verify, you can see we're starting at the top and not at the lower level. So what we'll do is we'll put our cursor somewhere on that level, click, copy the Z to our clipboard, so it's a negative 0.727, so close, verify again, and our toolpath is coming from the lower level. Just make sure your rapids are high enough, so you want to be above. I don't want a rapid of 0.505. Let's make that 1 inch for safety's sake. Now this would use a broach most likely, or an EDM to clean that out. So let's say we need to go into the corners and clean out the corners. You go to machining, create uncut boundary, and notice it picked up those corners. It gave me another set of pockets. So let's go into automation, make a new pocket, and we'll call this re-rough. Tool 2, let's use a 1875. Hit OK and verify. Okay. Now if we do a top view, you'll notice that the curve was at 20,000 stock allowance. So let's look at the preview. Then we don't want to put in a 20,000 stock allowance on the re-rough, so we'll take that out. Verify to calculate the tool path again. Notice the color change, that's for tool changes. So whenever you use a new tool, you can see what the new tool is doing. That's a newer feature. Now we have the top boss. Okay, let's rough around the boss, the outside, and take care of the inside of the bore. So we're going to go to curve, and we're going to use face curve. And I want to grab multiple faces for this curve, so I'm going to go to edit, make sure verify mode is checked. That allows me to select more than one surface, and then hit enter. So we're going to start with the outer boss, automation, contour. Go back to tool 1, ½ inch, feed speed, depth of cut. Let's get that off of the model. So let's hit OK, snap to all, come down to the bottom, click. That copies the coordinates onto the clipboard. The surface is now 0. The depth of cut, paste. Depth is always a positive number. It knows it's going in a Z negative direction. Stock allowance, we'll leave 20 thousandths. The radius, that was 1875, so we're going to put a bottom fillet of 0.1875. Okay, the machining is on the inside of the curve, so we want to go on the outside. So what we'll do is we'll make that the active curve. Go to curves and reverse direction. Let's take a good look at the side view of the machining. You can see we're putting in the radius. Now I'll make another contour. I'll call this boss outside finish. Tool 3. 375. Depth is the same. No step, no finish allowance. We'll use a lead in and lead out. Verify. Our tool, we need to tell it that that's using a ball and mill. Calculate. Now we'll do the inside pocket, so we'll make that our active curve. Go back to tool 1, ½ inch tool, 1.3. tell it we're not using a ball end mill. Then we just have the finish passes on the profile and these two pockets. We use the lead in and lead out. Our path, we'll start with the outside. Add the machining curves, we'll use this one and that one. Now the tool path, as you can see here, if you look close, it's plunging into the part. So if we turn the shading off, so these are okay, this one is not. So we'll take a close look at curve 6 and we'll just go to curves, reverse direction. All is good. And we could include this in our one to finish up that wall. We didn't do that, so we'll just go to add machining curves. We'll include that one there. Verify it. Okay, that's going on the wrong side, so we need to reverse that one. So we'll make that the active curve. Reverse. Verify all, and we'll be done. We just verify in our spreadsheet that all is well with our tool numbers. We could just slide the tool number over here next to the diameter. These are 1/2 inch tools, it's 1/2 inch, 3/8 ball, 1875. So all looks good. Spreadsheet's really handy to organize your methods. And then you would go to post, pick your post processor, and send it to the machine. One more feature before we go, and that's the chamfer. So we need to measure the chamfer distance and then establish our layer where the hole is a chamfer starting. So we'll go to dimensions, check distance, and we'll check the distance in Z here, and it's 135. We're going to escape, and we're going to just pick somewhere on that layer. Go to automation, chamfer. Chamfer size is 0.135. Chamfer angle, it's a 45 degree. The tool type is a chamfering tool. Offset direction left for climb mill. We can use a lead in and lead out. Now the type, if you look at the graphics, you've got our curves at the top of the chamfer. If you go negative, you have your curves below the chamfer. So we're going to go with a positive because we are selecting this curve here. Hit OK. I meant to go to advanced, I'm sorry. So we go back in, and our Z surface is at that layer. And verify. Our chamfer is starting on the outside, so we just need to reverse the curve. So we'll make that the active curve. Reverse direction. And we'll play it all, and I want to thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you can call us at 508-347-3222 or email EasyCam. You can email sales@easycam.com. Thank you.